I'm Nick Terzo, and you are listening to The Radical. This week's guest is another Texan whose band is making some serious noise at alternative radio. They have just released a new EP, Teche, which was recorded at the legendary studio Sonic Ranch and mixed by Manny Marroquin. Culture Wars singer and songwriter Alex Dugan comes aboard to discuss the band's songwriting and recording process, his segue from film school to music, influences, and understanding TikTok. Coming up, my conversation with Alex Dugan. Hi, Alex. Good to see you.
Howdy.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So your band is called Culture Wars, and you have a new EP out called Teche. Is that how you pronounce it? Which is Teche?
Teche. Teche. It's a made-up word, so it could be whatever the hell you want it to be. But it's we say tech, but
Tech.
I think if you Google it, it means like in French. This is not what we wanted. We just figured it out after the fact. Because we name songs random things when we're making them, like completely nonsensical stuff. And this is like, 4 glasses of wine in or something. And our producer just wrote like tech with an E on it just to be a jokester or whatever. But and then we're like, well, let's just keep it. But if you Google it in French, it means like a water trench or something. We're like, well, okay, well, that wasn't really the point, but okay.
I mean, I think it means, doesn't it mean like roof too, like in Spanish or something close to that? I think. So you've conquered a lot of languages. So
it's the least graphic fake name we've ever had for a song. So it's, I'll take it.
All right, so we're going to call it Tech then.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. And you kind of have a new single out with this too. Is it called Lose Money? Is that the single?
Yeah. That's like the final single part of the whole thing that's been, I guess, like 2 weeks in now.
Oh, that's fantastic. You recorded this at a place called Sonic Ranch Studios. That's near El Paso. Tell me a little bit about this studio.
Yeah, so it's technically in Tornillo, which is about 30-ish, 45, depending on whatever traffic from El Paso, like from the airport, kind of towards back towards the border. You take I-10, and it's this weird like pecan ranch that this guy has inherited and turned into what is now the largest residential recording studio in the country, and it's just kind of like being at summer camp. It's pretty funny. It's, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do other than just focus. And he's cultivated this studio with just out of love, like every possible amp and drum and synth and you could ever imagine. He'll find, like, he'll ask all the experts, what's the best year, what's the best make, model, and he'll find that exact thing. And then he'll do that for like anything you could possibly think of. And lets you just have at it without charging you for it. I mean, it's really like a some kind of blessing.
It's like a labor of love on his part. It's kind of a dying breed, this whole, residential studio notion.
But there's a lot of people go through there. Like, a lot of very well-known people from the U.S. as well as Mexico come in through there. So it's really, and then all the studios kind of come together in the main house for like lunches and dinners and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. But that's where we wrote the majority of the EP and also recorded it, obviously. But we just kind of went in, just kind of in not in boredom, but just like, hey, let's try something new. And if we get something great, if we don't, and then 4 days turned into like 3 weeks. Of just like, well, let's just finish it. We're already here.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's awesome. So you actually wrote in the studio too. You came in clean.
Yeah, we went just as like let's try something new producer, lots of things. And like, our producer's our buddy anyway. So it's like, let's just go have fun. And, if we come up with something great, if we don't, like, it was a good boys trip kind of thing. And it ended up, we weren't going in trying to like complete anything. it just kind of happened. So it's like, oh, okay, well, let's stay for another week. Okay, let's stay for another week. And then, and then it turned into that. And then we completed all the final little tweaks at the village in LA.
Oh, nice.
But majority of it was there in Tornillo.
Right. And this was mixed by Manny. Is that true? Manny Marroquin? Quinn? How do you put it?
Yeah. He did all of that, and he did the majority of our previous EP as well. So we had an established relationship with him there.
Well, they sound very good, so it's working. Tell me a little bit about the band. You have this great name, Culture Wars, based on our world that we live in now. And tell me a little bit about how you guys all met and how long you've kind of been a band.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like a long process. I, in college, transferred to UT for film school about halfway through. So I was like 20 or something. But when I was there, I was in film school, and I was like, well, I'm already 2 years in, even though I'm transferring. I want to get a degree, but really I'm kind of over it. I want to do music. So I started trying to like find musicians. Eventually I found David, our drummer. And then through a longer process found our one of our founding members who's no longer in the band. But it's been a long time since that happened. And we were all in a previous band together, in which case we were like we were touring and doing stuff, and we just kind of came up with this like, I'm kind of bored of this. Like, let's try something new. Just for fun, not as like a let's blow up the existing band. I mean, that's what happened, but wasn't the intent. So we then it was a 5-piece. The three of us split off to start this completely new project and essentially ditch everything. So that's what happened there. In which case we met Dylan, who, I mean, plays a lot of things, but on stage at least he's playing bass and keys and all sorts of stuff. And we met him. I met him through a mutual Houston friend. It's funny how it all kind of comes back to Texas, but yeah, so we kind of put this we wrote the song Lies. That was like the first thing we did. And we're like, whoa, okay, this is different. And so we essentially based everything around that and then tried to figure out what the rest of it was going to be. And then in that process, we've just been constantly developing and coming up with what we wanted to do. And I think for us, it's not about doing one particular song that works and then just doing it 100 times. It's like, let's just make the music we want to make, things that make us happy, things that we like, and hopefully other people like it as well.
This is like your second EP. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's like, my thought process on EPs and on releases is like, unless you're, Drake or Kanye or something, and someone's actually going to go through the entire album, like you're better off just quality over quantity, give the best, even, best things you possibly can. So it's more of a, like, here's just our absolute best material that we've been working on, which we're already in the process of doing that again. Well, we've been in the process for the last 2 years, like writing and revising and really just holding a very, very high bar, higher than we had before. So that's what we're in the process of doing now, even though Teche just came out.
Right. And so it's a format that works for you? I mean, do you envision doing a whole project at some point where you just go for it and do 12 songs?
Well, we're kind of doing that now, but I think the plan's always, because it's the internet, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. But I think the plan, we're essentially working on an album now, but whether we release it that way or not is up for debate because, I think certainly the industry is set up to put out a song at a time and for small things, because once it's out, and then it's dead to the world right after a certain amount of time. So, I think each song that we spend a lot of time on deserves its own little moment, even if it's for a month. So I think even if we had an album, we would still slow drip it in that kind of way, but we'd have it, it'd be done. And then we can go and then go back to work and just have constant stuff going.
Right. Do all you guys write, or who's the primary writers? All three of you?
It changes from time to time. It really just depends. In some cases, it's, the whole band. In other cases, it's me with our producer, Caleb. In other cases, it's, me with Dylan or something. Like it can be all sorts of random things. It's kind of just best idea sticks to the wall. In more recent stuff, when I was living overseas in Australia, it was a lot of like Zoom writing. which weirdly was more productive, I think, because we were just like, it was all in the morning and it was sober and it was just like, there was nothing to do other than work. So, there's no distractions. Something to be said about that, but yeah.
And I notice you have like some recurring lyrics that pop up here. We have the word lies shows up a lot. Occasionally the word money shows up. So is there anything going on thematically with those two?
Not
lyrics?
Intentionally. It's probably my subconscious. I'm definitely more conscious of it now, but at the time when we're doing it, I don't really care. Whatever the message is, whatever the song is, it is what it is. Like in the case of money, gimme, it was just what came out of my mouth, and the same thing with lose money. And at no point were we like, well, we already did a song that had that word in it. Who cares? If it's good, it's good. And, whatever makes the best song, but I'm sure, themes like that, like lies and money are unfortunately universal. So wasn't the intention, but
Well, I was just concerned for you. Seemed like you were around a lot of people that are lying to you, and I've had it. I was looking out for you.
Well, it's not hard to be. No, I appreciate it.
So who are some of you're a young band, I'm kind of curious, and we'll get to this down the road, but so who are some of your influences?
All sorts of stuff. Because it's Behind These Stones and Beatles and, New Order, Depeche Mode, U2, all sorts of Killers, 1975, Kings of Leon. They're all great bands, I'm sure I could rattle off all sorts of stuff, but, also, we grew up from Texas. So whether you like it or not, country seeps into it. We definitely have our like random, country days where Dave will just turn on something from like the 90s when we were kids. And it's like, oh my God, like your brain realizes how embedded it is. You're like, whoa. Cause it's like, everyone's like, oh, what's your first concert? And I go, well, from Houston, everyone's first concert's the rodeo, whether you like it or not, you get brought, But yeah, so this is all sorts of stuff. And then, I think there's all sort of, pop and hip hop and rap and all that stuff kind of starts to bleed in. And certainly for me, in that genre, and then certainly pop for David as well. Although I think it changes, but for us, we're all into completely different things. And so when we come together, it kind of makes this nice little blend of kind of keying each other in on what we're into,
That's awesome. At this early kind of stage, I know you guys have been at it for a few years, so I don't want to act like you're, fresh off the wagon.
Oh, it's always new. Yeah.
You have had some great success at radio, alternative radio already and all that, which is fantastic. And congrats doing that early on.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I was just curious, is there like a career out there? Like, do you see someone that you say, you know what, if we had a model or a career, that over a 20-year period or 30-year period, that's a career I'd like to have. Is there an artist that has something that you see as a model?
I think there's probably multiple ways that my brain would look at it. I think there's like a personal life model, and then there's like a business model as well. I always kind of say that the goal is like Wembley Stadium, kind of thing, which is, is a big, whatever. But, maybe you too. I know they get a lot of shit for, trying to still keep it going when they're, older, but good on them for it. Who cares, and musically as well, because they just have consistently, whether people like it or not, have pushed themselves to do something new. Cause it's so easy to go back and go, okay, we're going to make Joshua Tree again or something, and then they kind of did that, but, but they didn't do it 3 times, so it's like, they continuously push themselves to do something new, to not just stay stagnant. I think that's, pretty admirable, and you have to kind of blow it all up to re-envision it again. I think that's important.
Right. And are you, how has COVID affected you guys? Touring wise, you guys going to go out and play some shows now?
Yeah, well, we go back and forth on it. There's been some like opportunities, but we're not really seeking them out right now. I think, we're talking about like Christmas, not Christmas, but like December, like radio shows and stuff like that. But are those even going to happen? Right. And then, we could go to Texas and we could play shows, where we're from, but, if it's outdoor and, I think that it's certainly, Lollapalooza has proven that outdoor is safe as long as you're doing all the checks and stuff like that. But at a certain point, I mean, I don't want to put something on sale just to like reschedule it or cancel it, because it's just such a like weird, tease or whatever. Like I've got tickets for the Stones coming up and it's supposed to be in October. I mean, we'll see. It's just a weird, I don't know. And at a certain point you have to kind of question, like, obviously when you do a show, you're performing for the fans, but there's obviously a reciprocal to that. And so, yes, they may enjoy it, but who are you really doing it for? And you have to kind of ask yourself that tough question. Are you really just doing it because you're bored or because you want to be the attention all of a sudden? So I don't know that it's that complicated as I make it, because that's just somebody with anxiety just talking about, that in that kind of direction. But, I think we're probably looking still at the new year. I'd love for it to be sooner, but it's not really about me. So, we'll just see.
Interesting. And with the radio support you got kind of on the last record and such, did that allow you guys to have a little bit of a national touring strategy for yourselves rather than just being in Texas?
Well, it was all, yes, but it was all during the pandemic and still is. So, the majority of our success has all been in the pandemic. So, we haven't really been able to actualize it yet. And so even a lot of those stations around the country who've been playing us, it's like, cool, we're not there yet. Like there are shows, but we're not putting our name on it because we don't want to be liable or something. I don't know. But, so I think there's a great deal of like, I don't know what the word is, that we've kind of earned to be able to like go finally actualize that and see the people who've been listening to music, but it just hasn't materialized yet, obviously.
Right. And having a kind of part of your adult life now has been really in Austin, Texas. Is that has there been advantages for you creatively here with the community? Have you been able to plug into that once you've kind of left the campus?
No, quite honestly, like we are pretty disconnected from the Austin scene, and it is what it is. I think there was a time when we were like, oh, like we really want to be in the scene, and then we kind of realized, well, it's just not us. We're just not the guy. Like I love listening to music, I love doing stuff, but it's just not our personalities. Like I don't really like to get out and go to a bunch of shows, unfortunately. And I feel like, that's a very huge social aspect of that, but it's just not my personality. And, I just want to be myself. So, I'm a nice guy. I just don't want to do things I don't want to do, whatever. But within that, I think, there's always inspiration in different places. We've done a lot of work in El Paso. I think that's been a huge piece of the puzzle. We've done a lot of writing in El Paso. We've done a fair amount of writing in Austin as well. More recently, the majority of everything was written in Sydney and LA. So, the inspiration can come from all sorts of places. For us, it's more about like the location. Because if I'm just sitting at home, my brain's too content. I'm not going to be, like you're in a comfort zone. And if you're in a comfort zone, you're only going to creatively be in a comfort zone. So for us, it's about pushing ourselves, not only in the moment, but physically as well, which is why like something like El Paso, where you're out in the desert on this farm, and it's you're pushing yourself physically, mentally, everything. It puts you in a very, very different headspace.
Mm. And how did you get to Sydney? What were you doing in Sydney? Can I ask?
I was there visiting some people.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Chasing a woman, I think, is what that means.
That sounds right.
So here's something intriguing to an old guy like me. So you come here, you go to UT, you're going to study film, become the next Richard Linklater for us. You decide music's more your calling. As a young person today, what makes you pursue music? It feels like there's so many other distractions throughout it. Music's been a little bit less, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't want to call it less important because it's not. It's just more available, more, I don't know how to explain it. I think influencers have carved into the world a little bit, so musicians aren't as important.
Yeah, I mean, that's especially an alternative. It's very hard to be like, I mean, like when we're doing Leave Me Alone, and look, TikTok has been very, very great to us, frankly. So I'm appreciative of the platform and of the influencers because they've helped lift us up, but at the same time, it's hard when you're like on the radio chart and it's like, oh, Warner just signed this new TikTok star and they're passing you on the radio chart because somebody wrote a song for them. I get it. It's the industry. It is what it is, but it's certainly hard to compete with whatever the new TikTok star is or whatever the new like child of a celebrity is doing. And not to take away from what they're doing, it is what it is, but it's certainly when you're a band, it makes it harder for a band to exist when that is the economy, right? So, and that's what's hot. So that, right? Because they decide what's hot, frankly. But so it definitely makes it difficult. But, I guess I'm realizing I'm forgetting the original question. I got on a tangent.
No, the original question was really just about, so many other choices nowadays. Being a guy that's in a band isn't really necessarily number one like it used to be maybe 30 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the best context would be like how I grew up, right? So like I grew up with, a mother who is not professionally a singer, but loved to sing, and a father who's not professionally a musician, but did study it and loved, I grew up with the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix were the only two CDs that were allowed to be in his car. It's, and that's what we listened to every day to school. It was one or the other. That was it. Plug my charger in here. And that was it. That was all we listened to. And so that bleeds in. And then you add in, like when I was a kid, I was like 5 years old and watching like Blues Brothers 2000. And all I wanted to do was be the kid in Blues Brothers 2000. That was the whole thing for me. So I was like, how do I be the kid? And my mom's like, well, the kid's an actor. You want to go act? I said, okay. So I did musical theater from when I was 6 to when I was 13 before high school. I got into the private high school that I got into for musical theater, which I never did. Once I got in, they were pretty pissed about that. But I was like, yeah, now that I'm here, I don't want to do that. And but they had a film program in the high school, and that's what I ended up doing, and that's what I ended up going to school for. But it didn't satisfy that singing part of the whole thing. So I'm like, well, how do I? It's high school. How do I come up with a cool way to get away with the singing that I like to do? And that turned out to be, well, why don't you start a band? So I had a band in high school, and then I go to film school and I started a band in college. And so it's all just kind of been moving towards that. And it's all just been trying to be the kid in Blues Brothers 2000. So that's where it comes from for me, And and I just enjoy it. It's fun.
Do you think there's a merge of your skills there visually and audio wise? I mean, does that work for social media for you to be able to combine those two or have a knowledge of each of those? Does TikTok work for you because other people are playing your music? What really propels you on that platform, or is it what you create on it?
No. TikTok is other people using the music for sure. I am too old unfortunately, to understand fully, nor am I an 18-year-old girl. If I was an 18-year-old girl, oh my God, our TikTok would be going crazy. But no, I mean, that's all like, frankly, I struggle with that platform, but it is what it is. I mean, like we have a couple 100,000 followers on there, but mainly just because of the music and because we're posting, like, it's not like anything groundbreaking or anything like that compared to these, influencers with millions and tens of millions. And, like this girl who's been really great to us, Bella Porch, who's got like 80 million followers, and she just posted Lose Money the other day. I'm just like, sweet. That's like, that's kind of nuts, but all right, cool. And it's, so it's a little over my head, but I think with the film school stuff, I mean, it comes into play more so when we do music videos. I've been pretty heavily involved in almost every video we've ever done from a co-directing standpoint. Especially when we got into all these visualizers that we did and we started shooting everything on Super 8 film. And, that's like all the music videos we did for Tech are all shot on Super 8 film Kodak that we all shot ourselves as a group of friends. Like we all collectively, like our photographer, like our buddy Charles as well, who's become our photographer, videographer as well, who also engineers and produces with us. The rest of the band, including myself, you just pick it up and you shoot. I mean, something like that would only probably exist in an environment where you've got like a film school kind of mentality that's like, oh, that's really cool. Because then anybody else would be like, I don't, let's dig up this old medium and and like develop a bunch of film and so stuff like that would just only exist in that kind of environment. So it definitely seeps its way in.
But YouTube is still equally important, right? Yeah. So I mean, that does become really important.
We've had a lot of great YouTube stuff. Yeah.
No, continue.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube's been great for us for discovery as well. And for us, it's about creating as much content as we can, not to get like super into like a marketing thing, but like for me, it's when someone discovers us, however the hell they discover us, I want to give them as much as they possibly, I want to hold their attention for as long as I possibly can, because it's, if they want more, here you go, and the more time they spend, the more I would assume that they enjoy it, unless they're just hate watching. But, so that's always been the MO, is we need content for every single song and maybe more than one. And how can we do that economically? And that's when it's like, well, let's just, because we were talking about doing with the visualizers for this last one, it was like, oh, we'll build a set and do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, let's build a set that looks like Vegas. And, Frontier is like $60-$70 round trip to Vegas, and let's just go. It's there. It's free. We don't need to spend $2,000 on some set, let's just go. And then that way it kind of turns into a vacation anyway. And, you finagle it that way. But, so, just using it that way and developing and having as much content as possible, but trying to be really smart about it. Because you could have shot everything we did on a cell phone and it would have been okay, but the Super 8 gives it that much more character.
Right. And do you do any kind of alternative mixes with your music at all? I mean, do you do anything that puts it in a dance mode or something different?
Yeah, well, sonically? not publicly, I guess. We always screw with it anyway, just for fun, because we get bored. But no, I mean, we've never. I'm sure it'd be ripe for it. A lot of the electronic stuff that we do as well. But it's just never we've just not had the right opportunity where we're like, okay, cool, but always open to anything. Yeah.
Well, it is a creator economy, they say these days. So it just seems like everything's being kind of chopped up and repurposed and.
Yeah, well, the clever label people, they keep the same ISRC and it lets them run up the numbers. We're not that conceited yet, I guess. I don't know.
I hear you. So up next is, you think more? I mean, it's going to be I'll take a bet. Is it touring or more new music? Which is going to win?
Well, right now the only thing on the schedule right now is new music. I mean, we're actively right now in the recording process. So I mean, we were in El Paso last week. So we're actively in the recording process for this pseudo album. We'll see what it turns out to be. And now we're still tracking, but we're tracking and editing as we go. And we're taking our time, trying to be very, very deliberate about every single thing. So, that's where the majority of our time is. Like, we did an entire week in El Paso just getting the drums to 6 songs, but it was getting it dead on right, like, and really, which we've never done. So it's become a very, very tedious and thought through process of really making, because we know we love the songs that we have and we know that they're the best anything we've ever done, like, which is funny to say when we just put out the new stuff, but it just, I always say, if you're not getting better, then there's a bigger problem, right? So, we're really, really leaning in on that. And if shows pop up, I mean, we prepped the entire new EP and played 2 shows the last week of February 2020. We were ready. So, we've already figured that out. So that wouldn't take very much time to pull it all back together. So as soon as, it's the time's right, we're gone, kind of thing.
Well, you have a great voice, and I think in your future recordings, move that forward. Because it's really great.
It's a balancing act with the guys.
You're
I appreciate it.
Push ahead there with your vocal above the tracks a little. So don't tell anyone I said that. I'm going to strike that. So, but listen, thank you for your time. The new EP is Teche, we're going to say.
Sure.
It's fantastic. These guys are great songwriters, and I mean, you're kind of moving the alternative flag, which is great to hear. From a guy from the 90s who thought the alternative music was important.
Yeah,
so,
thank you. We'll keep going, keep pressing forward.
Well, I look forward to actually seeing you guys play live. So
Me too. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. This show originates from the podcast capital, Austin, Texas. My producer is Sean O'Neill. Visit theradicalpod.com for updates and even some merchandise. Also, please subscribe at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I also ask that you please share episodes with your friends so we can continue to grow our community. See you all again next Friday.